It's an ambitious goal to have about 500,000 people in jobs by the end of June to help turbocharge the economy, get folk off universal credit into work, and of course make sure that we power up the economy. But how is that to be achieved? Well, fortunately, we've got a doctor on call. Dr. Thérèse Coffey is Secretary of State for Work and Pensions and joins me now. How is this to be achieved? Doctor, good morning.
Well, have been successful in getting people into work, but we're going to turbocharge that in a number of ways. I think a critical thing is that bringing employers back into the job centres so we can try and accelerate people's, while they're looking for work, getting the interviews and getting those jobs. And it's
Where have they
important
gone?
that we try and do that. The economy
if they're not in the job
relying...
centres now, Doctor, where have they gone? What are they doing?
Sorry, I missed that, Nick.
I say, if they're not in the job centres now, Secretary of State, where are they? Where are they? What are they doing? Is it because of COVID that they're not physically there?
Well, our staff are there and our claimants are still coming in. It's about bringing employers in. And we found that was a very successful way, actually, with our young people in getting people into the kickstart jobs, where I think we've delivered now over 125,000 young people into work. So it's about trying to make sure that we are doing a lot more matchmaking. Right now, our claimant commitment, people go off looking for work. They might go off for interviews, hopefully, or getting job ready. And we're just trying to almost accelerate that process by bringing people together. There's a lot of vacancies that need filling, whether that could be warehousing, whether it's in the care sector, in order to help people and the economy of this country. But of course, the accelerated process that we're doing will also help people get into work. They'll get more money in their pocket and actually improve their mental well-being.
That all sounds very carrot. Is there a bit of stick involved, though, Secretary of State?
Well, one of the things at the moment is our regime, as it's called, allows people, where it's agreed with the work coach, to look for jobs in their sector. Often it's the best way to get back into work is the skills you already have for that sector. And it's possible at the moment to focus that solely on that particular sector for up to 3 months. What we're doing is saying, let's work with you intensively to get that down into a much shorter timeline. And we do know under the ABC approach, it's a well-tested approach. It's a much better, easier to actually get a better job once you are working and develop your career. But importantly, we're conscious that a lot of the restrictions are going right around the country. The economy is recovering. That's thanks to the rollout of vaccinations and the boosters and the liberation of the economy. And employers need those jobs filling. And we're here in DWP to deliver workers and prosperity for those workers.
So the period given I'm reading goes from 3 months to 4 weeks. Is that correct?
That's correct. We'll be operating
What happens
a
after
system.
that? So let's say that I want to become a forklift truck driver. If after 4 weeks I haven't, then I have to go into anything that's offered to me, just broadly speaking. Is that the case?
Well, I think if you've been a forklift driver in the past, you come to us, we're going to give you a month to try and get back into that role. That doesn't stop you still trying to become a forklift driver again in the future. But if you haven't been successful in that 4 weeks,
Okay.
we'll be saying, look, there are some other jobs in warehousing where you could go into that and then work your way back up to being a forklift
What
driver
if I don't go
in that company.
What
So
if I
there's a
don't
number of
go
things.
into the? What happens to me if I don't go into the warehouse, Doctor? Are there some form of sanctions applied?
Well, indeed, if you are offered a job and you turn it down, even though it's a job you're perfectly capable of doing, we are going to be saying a lot more. We don't think that's appropriate. You're receiving taxpayers' money week in, week out to look for work. There's a job there that you are perfectly capable of doing, and we will continue to support you.
So my benefits
If
will
you
be.
choose not to take work,
Yes.
then, why should you get paid?
So my benefits will be cut in some fashion.
Well, it's quite possible that you'll be referred for a sanction and as a consequence, part of your benefits, what's called the standard allowance, would be suspended. That's intended and that option is open to us right now, but we're conscious the economy is opening up. Over 1 million vacancies out there, Nick, and we're intensifying our approach to help employers fill their jobs, but also for people to get into work.
Yeah, because we'll move on. Because just to clarify, if you fail to accept a job, there was already a high sanction level available, wasn't there, to the DWP that could be applied in that instance?
Absolutely right. I think during the whole of the COVID pandemic, we've recognised aspects of the economy have been supported by the government through things like the furlough scheme. But certainly the availability of jobs may not have been always what was there. We know there are plenty of jobs, and we have plenty of people who receive benefits every week while they are looking for work, and we're intensifying our approach.
We'll move on to other matters in just a moment, but just lastly on this, Doctor, it could be characterised, I'm a highly skilled IT designer or engineer in my 50s. I can't get a job, so I've got to go into the care sector, otherwise I have my benefits cut. That's the reality of it, isn't it?
Well, a lot of people have been unemployed now for well over a year. We use a number of different programmes through Plan for Jobs. We've been using something called SWAP, Sector Work-Based Academies. We've got a Restart programme that's intensifying, and we're seeing in that people actually getting very high-value jobs. But I think this new approach, intensifying this, is important. There are over 1 million jobs to be filled, and we're going to help people get into those.
And lastly, what typically is it across a lot of sectors? This, I understand it to be about, broadly speaking, 1.2 million jobs. What sort of sectors are we probably talking about, Doctor?
Well, there are plenty of jobs out there. We want to help prioritise in elements things like construction, logistics, health and social care. But of course, there are other opportunities out there. I know that we do a lot of work with hospitality, as well as kind of more office jobs as well. So all these things are important. But we do know that things like the supply chain is important to make sure we keep people working. That has an impact on aspects of the economy, or keep flowing, I should say. And that has an impact on other parts of the economy if that isn't quite working as well as it should. But tribute to them. We've got partners who'll be working with us, some of whom never have before, by the way. They've assumed that they would go through different recruitment agencies, but we've forged a lot of new relationships through Kickstart, and they believe that, we've got plenty of people on our books, frankly, Britons with talent, who need to find the right job and get into work and get on.
You are the Simon Cowell of the government, Doctor. Britain's got talent. That's what you're saying here. If we move just to an associated matter, we know the Prime Minister and others are very keen to get everyone back to their place of work behind their desks if they have one. What percentage of DWP are back behind their desks? Secretary of State.
That's a good question, because throughout the pandemic, particularly in our job centres, people have been in the offices regardless.
You're a journalist.
I think
I'm going to stick with the question. You're a journalist. You were a journalist once, so I'm going to listen for the answer, Doctor.
I actually did property finance when I was at the BBC. I was never actually a journalist, but
I see.
just to flag the.
What is the percentage?
It's only just come to an end yesterday.
Yes.
We've had a situation where the work from home guidance was lifted last week. As you would expect when the government put in place the work from home guidance, the civil service led by example.
Yes.
That is now being lifted, so I'm expecting an acceleration over the next 4 weeks within my department, so that people who normally have office-based jobs will be back working in the office.
So what is it currently? Would you have a percentage available currently?
I don't have a percentage to hand at all.
Move to other matters. I think you were probably anticipating this question. When might we see the Sue Gray report?
I genuinely don't know, Nick. I'm conscious that Sue Gray has undertaken this report. I'm confident that the government has said it will publish the full findings of the report. At the same time, earlier this week, the Metropolitan Police announced it would be investigating this. They've getting on with their inquiries. So I don't know when the Sue Gray will be publishing the report.
Is it in Downing Street yet?
I don't know.
Okay. As regards other matters in Downing Street, it now would appear the Prime Minister might have lied over the evacuation of some animals from Kabul. How can we believe anything that man says now? Secretary of State.
Well, not only is the PM said he had no role in individual evacuations, particularly referring to the Nowzad and situation, but the Defence Secretary has said that he was absolutely in charge of the operations. At no time was he directed by the Prime Minister on this. The brilliant, brave armed forces have been recognised for their efforts with a medal recognising Operation Pitting, as they got 15,000 Afghans and British nationals out of Kabul in that difficult time. And, the Defence Secretary has continued to state he was in charge of operations. He was not directed, and the PM had no role in individual evacuations.
But what do we to make of one email saying that the boss is keen on this? How else is that to be interpreted?
Well, I don't know. And I've seen a screenshot of an email. Quite often it's not unusual in Parliament and in government for people to say that this is a pet project. For their pet projects, the PM said it's a priority. There are a lot of things that we deliver as a government, but PM said the PM had no role in individual evacuations, and the Defence Secretary said he was in charge of Operation Pitting in that regard.
OK, finally, you referenced actually the time you spent earlier in your career working at the BBC. Are you in support of Nadine Dorries' announcement of the end of the £159 licence fee?
Well, I'm conscious that the future of broadcasting, whether it be through radio, whether it be through TV, is an important one for this country. I was at the BBC only for 6 months, and I think it's an important institution in this country. I think what's right is the kind of the way forward is to think about what is it we expect of public service broadcasting, and of course the BBC is front and centre, but they are not the only public service broadcasters that we have in the media, and it's important we consider this in the round.
It was reported that you were unhappy with the way Nadine Dorries, the Culture Secretary, put this out through a tweet. Is that reporting correct?
Well, I think it's fair to say that Nadine reported what she did. We had good discussions at Cabinet about it.
What's a good discussion?
Absolutely, a good discussion.
Robust?
About this.
Was there an exchange of views, Dr. Coffey?
Pardon?
Was there an exchange of views, Dr. Coffey?
Well, a discussion normally involves an exchange of views. That doesn't mean I'm opposing Nadine in what she is considering. It's important that we work, and we are doing this across government. The role of the BBC, amongst all the other public service broadcasters, and the light of all the new media that's come into people's phones, other electrical devices and TVs is a way of enjoying that. And it's a very different dynamic from when the BBC was founded nearly 100 years ago. And I'm conscious that Nadine is responsible for leading government policy on this. But it's good that we are having a discussion.
Grateful for your time and thanks for all the discussion we've had today. Thérèse Coffey, commenting on Nadine Dorries. Dr. Thérèse Coffey, who's Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, appearing here on LBC, where it is 8:02. News is next.